Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now celebrating 17 years of broadcasting success, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, both for our radio audience here in the South and our online audience tuning in, thanks to iHeartRadio. We're glad you all could be with us as well. Well, we are celebrating another milestone in 2020, our 700th guest of this year, and I'm so excited to have that guest be actor James Duval. James is here to talk to us not only about his amazing career as an actor, both for television and film, but he has a great new film coming out December 1st. I had a chance to watch called Beast Mode. We'll talk to James about that, what it's been like for him to do what he loves, and of course let you guys know how to stay connected with him as well. James, thank you so much for the time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Cyrus. How you doing? And how's everyone doing out there in iHeartRadio? It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, the pleasure's definitely all mine. I'm doing great, man. Glad to be able to celebrate this milestone with you. It's your first time on with us as we're celebrating 17 years this year. Glad to have you on with us for the first time. I want to begin with this experience for you, James, because you've had an extraordinary career. As I mentioned, people know you for television shows, film. I think when I first mentioned to my producer that you were coming on, you know the movie everyone mentions is Independence Day, right? So it's such an amazing thing. What has that been like for you to kind of reflect on this career, James, and what you've been able to do?
Well, first off, let me say thanks again, Cyrus. I'm so flattered, for the kind words. I'm truly humbled. For me, to be completely honest, Independence Day was kind of not the pinnacle, but it was being the fourth movie that I had done, going from making my first movie for $20,000, which was no budget and independent, and then going to my fourth movie, which is Independence Day, was, quite a jump for me. And I have to say that everything, since then has kind of just been, I couldn't be happier to still be making movies after all this time. That wasn't the end all be all of my career, which it easily could have been. It's a tough movie to top, and then again, I think just putting myself to the grind for all the years, I've been fortunate enough here and there to be attached to some pretty special movies that for me, and I think that a few of my fans out there agree with as well. Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
I know they do, James. And James, that brings up another point, though, with you, and that is that I think, it has to be a great feeling for you that there are so many different types of projects you're known for. It's so easy, and I talk to a lot of actors on this program, it's so easy, right, to be kind of pigeonholed or typecast. But you've been able to bring a variety of characters to life. Is that part of the fun for you as an actor?
It really is, actually. It became, I think, it was trying to figure out what I was, trying to pigeonhole myself, actually, in the 90s. And I was trying to do that by saying you couldn't pigeonhole me. So I would be the guy that you couldn't be pigeonholed. And I found that, and the turn of the century in the early 2000s, especially as things turned to the digital age, that being a lot more picky about things wasn't serving me as an actor or, just to even make a living at it. So I started just taking what I could get, not only, because I think it's a lifelong, sort of job to learn about acting. I've never reached this pinnacle. I'm always learning and adding new tricks and things to the repertoire. And hopefully that makes me a better actor over time, to learn, to continue to grow. And with that in mind, it was like the only way I could really learn to do that was to challenge myself by taking things cross-genre. And being a fan of film in general and television since I was a little kid in the 70s and 80s when I was growing up, there became a point where I'm like, why can't I do more mainstream things? Why can't I do comedies? Why can't I, I didn't do much horror in the 90s, so why can't I do horror? Why can't I do horror comedy? Why can't I do horror comedy dramata? And start mixing all these genres together, which, we've seen people do this successfully as we push the boundaries in film. I think Shaun of the Dead is one of my favorite, as it's called a rom-com zombie. Romantic comedy zombie movie, or rom-zom-com, romantic zombie comedy. And so if I wanted to be able to play in the movies that I love, then it probably served me best to learn to cross genres as easily as I could.
Yeah. And now here we are at 2020. That's been a different type of year. I think that's an understatement probably to say, James, and it's affected your industry in particular. I also host a news program in my home state of Mississippi. I'm the news director there, and we were just doing a story from the AP about how Hollywood says it changed forever because of 2020 and you know, the future of making projects, of course, and then distributing those projects. How have you kind of dealt with that? Because you've been very fortunate in another regard, it seems like. You had other projects kind of already in the can, like what we're going to be talking about here, Beast Mode. But how has this year kind of been for you professionally?
What's interesting about it is that the business is always sort of changing. Every 10 years it kind of goes through a big change. Like in the 90s, as I started to adjust to it, we started to switch from shooting on film and you know, in a busy year it would be 3 or 4 movies a year. And once things moved to digital, which moved much faster and more efficiently, I could start making 9 or 10 movies a year because I had the time. I didn't spend 3 months on a movie anymore, but 1 month on a movie. So it's really learning to adjust to those shifts. And for me, this is nothing more than just another shift I need to adjust to. That being said, what's interesting about this year as opposed to all the other years is this is a global shift. It's not just me. It's not just here. It's not just my business. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And incredibly, and I think, you know, and I think there's a lot of people that agree with me. It wasn't really great, not in society or the business, to be honest, the way things, you know, they're still dealing, you know, we still hear about the Harvey Weinstein thing. That's the tip of the iceberg with Hollywood, you know, which Beast Mode tackles. And, you know, kind of keeping that in mind, it was things to change. And maybe this, you know, as horrible as it is what we needed to shift our consciousness, to stop being divided, to start united, that we need each other or we're in big trouble.
Yeah.
And that being said, so to kind of keep up with those times, you know, it's the idea of like, well, how does this affect movies and how is this going to shift what we do and how we do it? And so again, it's, you know, being really conscious of that. And, you know, I think we were speaking about this before on the last project I did, you know, it was everybody gets tested, then you go work, and then you get a call 6 days later that someone tested positive, and then everybody has to self-quarantine and then call everybody they knew that they had possible exposure because I had possible exposure. And then quarantine for 2 weeks, do the 2 tests, the last test on the 14th day, come up positive, then you know, that was a close shave. And that is not such a fun thing that's become the norm for now.
Right.
So I think if there's kind of any hope that this is a permanent shift, but I can tell you once we get the vaccines rolling, you know, reliable ones in the next 6 months and a year, and we start to move back to somewhat normalcy as far as restaurants and bars and music shows and movie theaters, you know, that kind of normalcy. Mm-hmm. You know, I think we'll see another shift in film again. Not exactly back to the way it was, but hopefully, you know, in a positive direction forward. That's the hope, you know. Like with everything else, you know, we have a new president, a new leader, so that's the hope. Hopefully we have this shift, and this is a shift that we all need. That's you know, regardless of what side you're on, things needed to change. It was not good.
Yeah. Really good points, James, and I think there's so many people that are listening to this, no matter where they may live, either where I live, I hear locally for the radio station, but also even internationally with iHeartRadio, that you're right. I mean, I think that's the thing. And I also love the optimism that you have. And I think I'm a glass half full guy myself, and I always try to look for the good in situations. And I tell people the same thing. I think we kind of needed this shift, this reassessment, to really figure out what we're made of, but I think also what we're capable of too. And I think that's what this time has really kind of shown us too. And it's interesting you mentioned that it is a really eerie, you know, correlation to Beast Mode, is it not? Is that not the craziest thing? I mean, so I have to ask you, because I honestly don't know the answer to this question, James. When did you first find out about Beast Mode? When were you first approached with it?
I would say 5 years ago. I found out about it.
Wow.
Before, yeah. When we were filming it, I can definitely say like the environment and the social norms were much different. We had a completely different president back then. You know, we'd come out of this kind of obsession and things. You know, what's incredibly to me is seems like people forgot that. Well, it's come out of it because I had it. It took years to recover even as an actor after 2008. It was brutal. And I could have been more thankful for the way the directions had been moving. And of course, there were struggles, but anytime you have a massive shift like that, you can't fix it in 2 years or 4 years. You know, that takes time. And so that being said, it was like almost watching everybody get really impatient and then shift in the other direction. Like, no, what are you doing? We were working together there for a while, guys. We're not gonna, it doesn't work if you start moving in the opposite direction. You're going to start breaking things. And that's what we saw. Things started breaking left and right.
Well, it's a powerful
people,
film.
Unfortunately.
Oh, I'm sorry, James. I'm sorry about that. No, I was going to say I mean, it is a powerful film, and again, I'm so excited for our audience to be able to see it beginning on December the 1st. And what I love about this film, and I'll talk around some of this, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And thanks to October Coast for allowing me to be able to get a chance to see a screener of it, is that it is, of course, in the film, of course, this real danger that is lurking about. But it's what I think it represents, and that is the danger of so many things we see, especially in today's world with social media. I think that's the interesting thing for me, James, that the fame, what you'll do for success and, to be famous and to be relevant. Does it kind of make you say, wow, to kind of think about that film now than the time it's coming out in and those type of messages in it?
It does, actually, because even though, I think social media 5 years ago was not as rampant as now, but it was very widely used. You didn't see actually us really use any social media in the movie because it didn't play that kind of role, the same kind of role in Hollywood that it does now.
Right.
It's kind of the joke. I did another film short a few years back where we kind of joked around. I played an agent who couldn't pick this girl who was beautiful and talented because she had less than 50,000 followers, and it just didn't matter how talented she was because I need someone with more followers. Sorry, honey, you might want to call this guy. He might help you. But you're out of luck here. No followers, no agent. And, so it became this thing about fame, which has kind of always existed. And so, again, like, I was saying how I was raised, making movies in the 90s and whatnot. So it was really kind of the opposite. Early on, it was kind of learning to fight against the fame thing and letting that get to your head and not letting it corrupt you. And, I was fortunate in the sense that, so Independence Day, for example, all the actors on that, even though they were extremely famous and A-list and professionals in the top of their game, were the most amazingly wonderful, giving, generous people I've worked with in the business. Not that I haven't worked with people since then, but on that level, they were more than I could ever ask for. So you have wonderful people that exist in all walks. But, you also experience, which I have in other movies, the exact opposite. And it makes it a very, very uncomfortable working environment. Not conducive for anybody. When you're making a movie or a television show, it's a collaborative effort. And that's one of the things that I love about it. I'm never more happy than when I'm on set working with the other actors, the crew, the grips and the electrics, the DP, the director, the writer, makeup and wardrobe, everybody who has their own idea for the script and their own idea of where this character is and where he's going or she's going and their own idea of how to do it. Some actors have a similar process. Some actors have a completely, antithesis, grinding almost to my process. But learning to respect that and learning to work with that is, I think, the most important thing. And then what it teaches me from that to go out into the outside world is learning to get along with people by collaborating, where everybody's ideas, everybody's opinion is important, and everybody plays an important role to help us get to where we're going. Even I, as the actor, am just the face and useless without those people. We're all doing this work together to make this picture and this illusion and this story to bring to people, to make them laugh, make them cry, make them forget. But in that sense, we're all links in the same chain. And learning that over all the years is what you can, pull out of the positive side of not just this business, but of anything, when you don't let the fame and the outside materialistic, I think, celebration get to you, because it's never really about that. All that is an illusion as well as the movie. Like, I'm just these characters I play. That's not who I really am. I mean, I'm just me. I'm not really these characters who I play. That's not who I am. And so it's very much that same idea outside of things as well.
Have you always had the confidence, James, that comes across at least on camera? I mean, is that something that you feel like has served you well, or is that something that's evolved with your career?
It's something that's certainly evolved with my career, I think. Certainly. I know when I did my first movie, I was nervous, but it got to the point that once and it was just Greg Araki and myself usually shooting some stuff because it was such a low-budget movie. Or sometimes it would just be me, him, and, one or two other crew members. So filming on it in an intimate setting like that made it very easy for me to open up and express myself without feeling nervous. And then moving to my first big movie with Greg and Doom Generation, then my first major movie with Rolling on Independence Day, I was getting thrust into now I'm doing this in front of 50 people, 100 people. But again, learning to just kind of, once you get in there and you're focused, you can block that out. And I learned to block that out and then you forget. The intimidation melts away, literally. I think even after the first day or two, you get to know people, you know their names, you're going in, you're saying hello. It's a lot happens between when you call action and when you call cut, more than when you're filming, really. You know what I mean? Quite a bit more. So once you establish those relationships in the first few days, it really does help, for me, create a comfort zone where I feel that I can feel confident, I can express myself, and I can do anything. And I'm supported to do that. Motivated, and they're helping. Anything I can do to get there, they want to help me get there, and that's a nice feeling. It's probably, I've not really gotten that really anywhere else. So again, one of the things I love most about movies is everybody working, that collaborative effort, working together to make something happen.
Right. Well, I tell you, it's amazing to be able to see it all come together. I want to say for those who are just tuning in, either on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. James Duval is our 700th guest of 2020. We're talking with him about his remarkable career and the new movie coming out December 1st, Beast Mode. We're about to also let you guys know how to stay connected with him on social media. That's the last thing I want to talk to you about, James. We mentioned this earlier about some of the themes of Beast Mode, and definitely, of course, connecting with people. You've gone from spending time with your fans in person, of course. Now social media is kind of the way that we're able to do that. What has that experience been like for you to kind of see this audience growing for you from project to project?
It's been incredible, actually, because, maybe because I'm from a different generation. Know everybody, I'm not a boomer. I'm the forgotten generation, Generation X, where they go, from the millennials to the boomers, you're like, hey, you guys, there was someone in between that, like my generation.
Right. I'm with you, Dave.
Yeah, the forgotten, which might not be such a bad thing at this day and age, but we're still here working, fighting the good fight.
Right.
But it's been interesting. I've shied away from it for the most part. I'm becoming more active, and if anything, that might be the part where I'm a bit shy. I'm not shy when I'm acting or creating roles, but maybe in real life. I know sometimes there's been 80% of the time, and I haven't posted, which, again, I've been kind of promoting Beast Mode lately, so I'm promised to be posting and be more interactive. But I woke up one day a few months ago with a bunch of messages, and I was so intimidated I didn't answer any of them. I feel horrible. I was like, how do I answer all this? This is crazy. I'm not used to this. I got to go take my dog out. I got to work out. Because I created this routine to keep me happy and busy during quarantine that I've been following all year, to limit my contact with people, except for when I'm working. If I'm going to get sick, then, hopefully I don't, but let it be from at least I got paid for it, something. Not that it would, make up for it, but at least I got something back in return.
Right.
I've been more active. I'm about to post, stuff on Beast Mode, another pilot that I just recently finished with Michael Madsen, where I play an undercover police officer in the underbelly of Buffalo, New York, kind of a mafia story called For Nothing. And then another film that I did called I Challenger that I'm really proud of. It's a movie coming out next year, hopefully. But everything's done. And I play a 40-something-year-old gamer who sells marijuana to underage kids who can't get it from the dispensary.
Oh, my goodness.
And then he ends up, he ends up making friends with another gamer, a very young gamer played by Coy Williams, who is amazing and my partner in crime in the movie. And we're not criminals, I should say. We're partners in the good stuff. Decide that we're going to do this because I need luck. So we decide we're going to bury myself underground for 24 hours in a supervised 24-hour self-burial challenge. And then we're going to put it on YouTube, and it'll get viral, and I'll make all this money, and then I won't have to sell to young kids anymore. And I'll basically end the movie premise with this. By the time that I do get down underground and test the camera, I tell the audience, stay tuned, boys and girls, because anything can happen. And I promise you, anything does. We'll
Wow.
just leave that movie at that. I'm very happy with that, though. So, in that sense, I'm going to promote these things, and I'll be more active. But I was, to be honest, shy. I'd get halfway through posting something. I'm like, I don't have time for this. I gotta stop. I gotta go do. I've got stuff to do.
Wow. Well, I think it is one of those things where when people look at your work, James, it really reminds us of what we can do and how hard work truly does pay off. And as I mentioned, not only are you celebrating Beast Mode that's getting ready to release December 1st, but a lot of other projects coming down the pipeline. So that's a great segue. How can our audience stay connected with you, James?
Thank you again. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this, Cyrus. The best way to stay connected with me would be on Instagram under Real James Duval. Not because of the ex-Prez, by the way, which I'm not ashamed to admit I was not a fan of, but because other people were impersonating me. So it's under REAL James Duval, JAMES DUVAL, and it's the same thing for Twitter. I'm not on Facebook. I haven't posted on there since 2013, so I wouldn't say go on there for me at all.
Got you. We'll definitely want our audience to make sure you guys are staying connected. Real James Duval there on Instagram. We'll make sure that we link that up for our audience as well. James, congratulations to you again. Thank you so much for this time, and looking forward to our next conversation together.
I can't wait, Cyrus. Thank you again. Stay safe and be well out there. And same thing with everybody out there at Heart Radio and in the world land. Much love.
Same to you, man. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Let's make today amazing. Take care.